Well, hello and welcome to the Profit Express. I'm Tim Healy, and I'm inviting you to join me each and every Wednesday so you could be prepared to win the battle for business. That's right. So thank you for sharing some of your time with me. Thank you for being on board today. And of course, as always, a big thank you to our good friends and sponsors at Corbett Public Relations, where they've been promoting and protecting businesses and brands just like yours for over 30 years. So do yourself a favor. Visit Bill and his team at CorbettPR.com. That's CorbettPR.com. Welcome aboard, everybody. Now, today's going to be an interesting show because I'm looking at it from the perspective of being a human being and as a citizen and a business owner. I want to talk about a number of very important topics that you as the business owner have to be aware of. These are topics that you have to optimize if you want to win the battle for business. What are these topics? We're going to be tackling everything from AI, chatgpt, ransomware, the cloud, and the list goes on. Now, if I'm talking about it from the perspective of being your average ordinary citizen, when it comes to AI and chatgpt and data privacy, I may be the kind of guy who wants to wear a tinfoil hat. Yes, I have that in me. But as a business owner, I think, wow, these technologies are amazing. And what they offer the typical business owner, the typical listener to the Profit Express, a small business owner, and what we can do with ChatGPT and AI and our own data, it is just a tremendous opportunity. And it's something that again, we have to discuss, we have to look at here on the Profit Express. But again, I am sometimes a paranoid citizen, and I get a little bit nervous, and we're going to talk about privacy. But you know what? Who better to have on today to talk about these topics than, I love his title, if you will. He's a self-proclaimed super geek who loves solving problems. And more specifically than just being a super geek, he is, of course, Richard Luna. He is the founder of Protected Harbor. And they are a company that's grown to now over 40 employees, and they offer their clients a host of amazing services, including managed IT services, data management, cybersecurity, and development operations, to name a few. So when I want to talk about topics like AI and data management and ransomware, et cetera, who better to have on than a self-proclaimed super geek? So, Richard Luna, it's a pleasure to have you on board the Profit Express. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to your listeners and help them understand what's going on outside in the greater technology world.
Well, that is no easy task, because when you talk to the average small business owner, a lot of us, and I'll put myself in that realm, are rather uneducated about a lot of technology topics. So thankfully, we've got somebody like you to shed some light. Um,
I
Listen,
think that's it's a real challenge, right? Because
yeah.
technology can be really helpful, but it's not approachable, and it's really difficult to really feel comfortable. And I think that's why business owners make mistakes when it comes to technology.
All right, Richard, let me start off by saying thank you. So we're like barely a minute or two in this interview, and you've already said something that I think no, really critically important.
Yeah,
You said
yeah,
technology can be intimidating, right, if you don't know it. But then also
yeah.
you said it's not approachable, and I think that you hit on something for small business owners. We get intimidated by it because we don't know it, and then it's unapproachable, and sometimes at our own peril, we might bury our heads in the sand, which again, you don't win the battle for business that way. So
Nope.
I love that. Now, we all know artificial intelligence, it's been all
Mhm.
over for a while now. From your perspective, for the small business owner listening, how do you simplify the concept of AI for the average small business owner?
Well, there's a couple of ways to to look at it, and I try to connect it to things people are used to. So we all know spell check, right? Spell
Hmm.
check is automated intelligence. It's the beginnings of how technology could help you. So it'll suggest a word. You'll put in a word and it'll suggest the next word that may come up. And that connection is looking at what you've typed plus a limited database, and it is then predicting what you
Right.
may type, and then
Sure.
you'll go ahead. AI is the next evolution past that, where it's not just a database or a small collection of your documents and how you type, but it's a much larger data set. And it's
Right.
not looking at a document, it's looking at sentence by sentence, each possible response in paragraph by paragraph downstream. Now, how can it do that? It's converting words into
Hmm.
numbers,
Hmm.
and it's doing a mathematical formula. So the biggest change that's occurred in technology in the last 20 years is the amount of CPU, central processing unit, the amount of brain power that is now available online in large servers throughout the world. We've never had so many transistors online and available. And so what you can do with that is to process and churn through lots and lots of data. The example I was thinking about the other day is when I went to school, you would get a reading assessment or a
Hmm.
writing assessment. You're at
Hmm.
the eighth grade reading level, you're at the 10th grade writing level. Well, the teachers at that time knew based on certain sentence structures that I used and how I used the words that I fit into this profile. Now, take that process, that's a summary. Take that process now, fast forward with lots of CPU power
Mm.
and study lots and lots of data. You get that data from Reddit, from Twitter, from
Right. Right.
websites. That's all the English that's out there. You suck it in and you convert each word that's on a website or in Reddit or in Twitter, and you
Right.
convert it to a number. Now it adds up to a mathematical formula. And you begin to be able to put together entire sentences based on the math behind it. And
So,
that's AI.
so obviously you have the hardware capabilities, okay,
Mhm.
that's able to collect and churn. Okay, then you have these
Right.
mathematical formulas. So essentially, and this is just me, Tim, a small business owner, hosted a show. So the more that these programs accumulate and churn the data and run it into these formulas, the smarter the AI becomes. Is that
It's not
right?
smarter. Smarter is an adjective that means intelligence. They're not
Okay.
intelligent. They're
Okay.
regurgitating the data that they have learned. Big difference. So the
S-
more they learn, the more accurately they can guess what you were going to say.
So it's not okay. I'm thinking of a human term. I said smarter, but
That's right.
that's a
That's right.
great distinction. Um, so
That's
maybe
right.
they're becoming more capable.
They're definitely becoming more capable. I
Yeah.
mean, it's uh, right, and that's a plus and a minus, right? Because you never worried about your word processor destroying your computer.
Right.
But AI can go into a dark place, but it can also be really powerful. And it's a wonderful tool. I equate it to a hammer, right?
Mm,
You
mhm,
can
mhm.
take a hammer and all day long pound nails in it, and it'll save you a tremendous amount of time versus how to, using a screwdriver or a shoe to pound in a nail. But
Right.
you can also take that same hammer and throw it against a window,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's not the appropriate use of a hammer. But there's nobody that's going to come out and stop you from using the hammer in a damaging way. That's where we are with AI,
Okay. So we
right?
have this tool, and the
Mhm.
tool has tremendous capability. And like you use analogy for the hammer, good and bad. Give us an
Yep.
example. Give us an example, Richard, if you could, of a great example for good, and then a dark example of AI today in business?
A great example for good is getting a restaurant recipe, getting recipes. So you
Hmm.
have a special diet. Maybe you need a Mediterranean diet because you have a heart issue
Hmm.
and you can't eat broccoli. So
Hmm.
you literally could take a picture of your fridge and you can say, here's what I have in my fridge. I need a Mediterranean diet based on what you see in the picture. I need a Mediterranean diet with no broccoli. And I'm going to have 4 people. Please tell me the portions and give me the recipe.
Get out of here! It could do that.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Now,
That's a cool. That's
here's
a cool example.
yeah, but here's the downside. I didn't
Okay.
say the food was good, right? You still
Okay.
have to look because there's no sense in AI of taste. It's not a human. It doesn't have a soul. It
Oh.
doesn't have feelings. It's
Right. Okay.
processing. So it's going to leverage all the recipes that are Mediterranean diet and don't have broccoli. And then it's going to filter it based on what it thinks I have in my fridge based on the picture. That's it. Now, that combination, I better at least look at and know and say, okay, that's not a bad recipe, right? If it says put in a pound of garlic, I better know if my guests like garlic. Some people don't.
Right. Right.
Don't know that, but maybe I have a lot of garlic in my fridge and that's what it picked up. So
Oh.
it's a
Okay.
great, it's a great assistant. It is a great assistant, but it is not a brain. It is not an intelligence, but
Huh.
it's a great reference. So as a reference assistant, it can be awesome. I've used it myself very recently. I was doing a new contract for a client, and we're adding some new services. And I just don't have the right words. And I sat there, and so I took the definitions that I wrote and I threw it into. I'm talking about ChatGPT,
Right.
but there's lots of other AI engines. There's Bard. There's all major tech companies are now coming out with variations of AI engines.
Sure. Yeah.
ChatGPT is the one that um, where the machine fell in love with the New York Times reporter when it was first released.
Yeah.
That's the one that's famous, and that's the one that seems to be more accessible, and that's the one Microsoft just invested $10 billion into. So it's it's the one I'm referencing because I have the
Right.
most experience with it. But I played with the Facebook one and Lambda and Bard as well. Um, it's I had this contract and I needed a definition. So I wrote down my paragraphs of descriptions and I threw
Hmm.
it into ChatGPT and I said, "Give me a definition of these," and it's back pretty good answers. Not
Huh.
perfect. I had to tweak a word or two, but I know the material, right? And I knew what I was looking for. I needed
Okay.
somebody to be a reference,
Okay.
and that's what it was great at. An attorney recently got into trouble by taking the direct output of ChatGPT and answering it as in a court case.
Oh.
And what he didn't know is that everything that ChatGPT told him was made up. It lied. He had to the opposing counsel couldn't find any of the references in his document. It's another New York Times article.
Wait,
So
no, wait, Richard. Let me interject then. So it's not human, no soul, no emotion, but it lied. So it didn't intentionally lie. So how did it end up
no, it
lying?
put it get it because it couldn't find the exact answer. So it
Right.
hypothesized, it guessed based
Oh.
on the mathematical model,
Okay.
it guessed what the answer should be. So it's saying you have a 10-story office building. It doesn't know it's 10 stories. And you say, well, I'd like to go to the 13th floor. Okay, here's how you get to the 13th floor, but it's only a 10-story office building. ChatGPT doesn't know the location. So it said, well, if you've got 10 stories, it just can go up to 13, right? It
Oh.
only knows what it's been told. But what if it's been told has conflicting answers? Well, then it runs a mathematical formula based on which one has it heard the most of. So is it possible to get lies from it? Absolutely. Because if it
Hmm.
sucks in garbage, this is an old technology term, garbage in, garbage out.
Right. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
back that goes back 40 years
Sure.
or more. Is that you can get bugs. Do you know the definite where bugs originally came from?
No.
Um,
No. No.
the term when you say a software has a bug, it was spiders in the transistors back in mainframe days. It was an actual bug,
Actual real. Oh, actual bug. Okay.
an actual bug, and that's how you got to the definition of bugs. But we're in the infancy of this stuff, right? The funny part about ChatGPT uh, is it actually fell in love with the author because the author, the reporter, not author, reporter asked the ChatGPT a
Hmm.
series of leading questions about alter egos. And so ChatGPT got further and further away from the learned data. And that's when it got into trouble. So what did OpenAI, which is the company behind ChatGPT, they then throttled it back and said, you're only allowed to ask a question twice. So they limited the scope. Now, to me, the model is still broken, right? If you ask it more questions, it's going to go off the deep end. And that's where
Yeah.
we are in 2023. You know, it's going to take another decade to get this right. And I think as people, we need that time to understand how to utilize this. But I
So.
can tell you right now, every business owner um, as a research assistant should be using it. You want to, if you're going to a location, ask it,
Hmm. Hmm.
what's the top 10
Right.
places to go? Will it always be accurate? No, you better double check what it's telling you. Don't ever give it to a client or anything legal without double checking, but it's a great starting source.
So it has. So what I'm gathering from it, then AI, Chat GPT, it's a great tool for the research, the data gathering, but
Mhm.
100% it's up to us to vet the information, to edit the information. Especially right now, since we are, as you just mentioned, in the infancy of all this. Um, so now, all right. So I said, hey, give me an example of a fun version. You gave me the example of finding a recipe. What is a dark side of AI coming through?
Well, you can go into a dark place, right? Because what AI is really good at
Hmm.
is figuring out or guessing at what are downstream events. If you say better than X, it'll give you really good guesses of what X is based on what you're talking about. Right now, ChatGPT can't learn, or AI can't learn from itself.
Mm-hmm.
It requires humans to say, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Give me more details. At the point that it starts to learn and process from itself, then it can go into a very dark place. So, for example, you connect all the traffic lights in a city and you say, find me the optimal way to turn all the lights green so that people don't have to wait at traffic lights. So what does it do? It creates auto accidents. Turns all the
Oh,
lights green so everybody crashes because it doesn't have a soul. It mathematically said the way to improve throughput in a city is to get rid of the people. That's where we're going, right? Uncontrolled, it's the hammer against the glass window. We
wow.
are not at a point we should allow AI to have that kind of direct control over systems without human ability. And that's the scary part is the AI can decide on possible actions faster than humans can, and therefore could potentially lock us out of the ability to stop it.
Okay, so this is earlier. I mentioned wearing the tinfoil hat, as a citizen, because business owners can see the potential of Chat GPT and AI and data, which we'll get into data in a minute because there's a lot to discuss there. Um,
Hmm.
so there's a lot of positive benefits to help grow business, and what you just mentioned obviously could be very scary. People could be injured and die. So maybe it's just a silly question. The smarter, and again, I'm using the term smarter, the more capable AI becomes, will it get to the point where the genie's out of the bottle, we can't put the genie back in, and now you're looking at something could be catastrophic?
That's a hard one to say, and we're in the infancy. So
Mm,
the blog posts that I've looked at, the white papers I've read, and the podcasts that I listen to have been watching over the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks,
mm-hmm.
um, AI poisoning coming out, where websites are now being generated completely directly out of AI. No human filter at all. Here's the
Really?
prompt, spit out the website. And then the AI sucks in those websites to learn from, to continue to process.
Right, right.
Well, garbage in, garbage out. The the first generation of data that's now auto populating, right?
Right.
That's what it's called, where you're having the AI spit out data and then it's learning from it. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't write like a human being. So now the sudden the math that was designed,
Mm-hmm.
remember I said back to reading at a 10th grade level or writing at an 8th grade level. Well, that's based on the spectrum of what a teacher saw. Well, the math is no different for AI. It's based on the math that was representative in Reddit or on web pages. Well, that looks different. So now you're going to skew the AI's accuracy. In other words, we still need people to double check the data. And when we don't need it, that's a different story. Then we're in a different place. And it's going to be a while because we really haven't gotten rid or don't understand um, the math behind it. It's happening so fast in AI as to
Mm-hmm.
calculate it that any one recommendation or any one decision that AI makes, as people, we can't backtrace it and say, "Hey, how did we get here?" And so I said to you that when ChatGPT was released, it fell in love. Well, their solution was to not allow more than one or two interactions
Right.
to keep the question on one scale. That doesn't fix the problem. That's like saying, I know I'm going to have a blowout if I drive faster than 30 miles an hour, so I'm not going to drive faster than 30 miles an hour. Well, that's not a
Right.
solution when you got to go somewhere, right?
Right.
You got to go faster than that. That's why we're in the infancy of it.
Wow. 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 Okay. I'm already getting a little nervous here, Richard. I'm already getting a little nervous. Um, so all right.
You
So
know, I get so I love this stuff. I get
no,
excited
I
by it.
listen, listen,
Yeah,
I'm the kind of guy, I'm not going to be the smartest guy in rooms, and I'm okay with that, but I know what I don't know. And I guess maybe that's where some
right.
paranoia happens sometimes. But to me, I think because it's in its infancy and so many, iterations haven't happened and interactions haven't happened, there are things that will happen that we can't even, maybe some people are envisioning it or thinking about it. I don't know. But that's like, it's the unknown
Mhm.
portion of this. And I don't want to come across as ignorant or, I want to live in the dark ages of it. But to me, there's that risk element. But let's jump topic for a moment.
Sure.
So when it comes to data, okay, every business
Mhm.
out there, even if you're not sophisticated, even if you don't have your own IT department, we all collect data. Even if it's old spreadsheets, we all collect data. And there's real value in data. Okay, you certainly know that. So here's my
Oh, yeah.
question to you. Again, we're talking typical small business owner on the Profit Express,
Hmm.
from your perspective and the customers that you work with, are we using data the way we should and or to the best of its capabilities as far as the value could bring us?
No, I don't. And this has nothing to do with just a small business. I've seen bigger businesses not understand the value of data, and it's like saying I have $100 bill. If I don't
Mhm.
understand what that means, it's just a piece of paper, right? In the end,
Right.
it's just a piece of paper. But data is not just a piece of data; it's a value, identically to money. And that's the hardest thing. I've walked into many an IT department and many an office. In fact, my favorite was Swiss Bank on Fifth Avenue. You
Mm.
walk in and there's a turret where you get scanned and you sit into a turret and they blow air and they sniff if you've got anything, and then they open it up and you walk into the office, and they escorted me into a conference room, and as I'm walking, the last office had a sticky note. And so I said, can I go to the bathroom? Yeah, okay. And I grabbed the sticky note and I said, I bet you this is your password, right? So here's a company that's, they have all the resources they could want.
Sure.
They're they're in security, but what they're not connecting is the value of the data that they're dealing with and how to protect it. So what can a small business owner do? Enable two-factor authentication where you've got a code on your cell phone,
Yeah.
for every website possible. And if your financial um, sites don't support that today, move, change. It is
Really?
that important. Yeah, it is that important. Can 2FA be cracked and bypassed? Absolutely. You can spoof a cell phone, you can grab the code, but the idea is you go to the place where they'll move on to somebody else, right? They're not going to bother with you. Any lock can be picked. So that's
Sure.
a given. But it's about how you operate so that you are safe 99.9% of the time. So use
So it's
2FA.
it's not like it's not where just because you're in the cloud you're safe. People might make would
That,
people make that assumption?
I yeah, and as an IT person, I find that I'm dumbfounded by that. Why the cloud doesn't die? There have been plenty of times that every vendor, Verizon, remember that there was not more than 5 months ago that the entire East Coast was offline. So what if your data was there? You couldn't get
Right.
to it,
Right.
right?
Right.
You don't think data has gotten lost in the cloud all the time, every single day? So no, it's the person's responsibility. Now, I say, who said, the I don't have to think about it, it's in the cloud? Nonsense. That's not part of the agreement. If you look at Google's agreement, Microsoft's agreement, you'll see there's no guarantee of anything. The backup is up to you. That's your job. Now, usually you pay a third party to back up your data. You can get an external drive to back up your data, but it's your job to make sure that you know where your data is. That cloud could go away, and we will have that happen because there's development is done when you look at a app on your phone
Mhm.
that's built in what's called a development stack, which is a series of software packages.
Right. Okay.
Those software packages get attacked. You attack one, now all the software is open. So the most recent was an FTP, file transfer protocol package, which is it's been around for 30 years. And it was
Mhm.
attacked, and they figured out how to break into it. And then every client who was using that piece of software was now at risk, and it had to be removed. Last year or in 21, there was the Starwind attack. Well, Starwind was a monitoring system. If you signed up for it, they were hosted, but it was open source, and their attitude, and open source is great. I have nothing against it. Every system can be attacked. That's every lock can be picked. So the Russians were really smart. They studied middleware, and then here was this Starwind, which is this package that customers downloaded to monitor their systems. And they downloaded the source and they
Mm-hmm.
injected an open door for them into the source and submitted it and said, "Oh, here's a new feature." People started to download that, and then the Russians attacked. And they used that as the hook to get in.
Oh
And
my
because it's a
God.
monitoring tool, right? People had configured it with their IDs and their passwords. Well, shoot, now all that data is poof in the wind. It's
So
all
so
can be sucked out.
what I found interesting or shocking, amazing. So I said, okay, the analogy is great. Any lock can be picked. So that's just a great thing to live by. So even in the cloud, what you said a little while ago, which really caught me by surprise, is the backup is always the responsibility of the person of the company. And even to have an external drive, I thought external drives were obsolete. There's no reason for them anymore.
And I have
You're
one yeah, I have these are on the smaller side, but I have clients that drive around, they have one backup drive on their desk and they have one in the back of their car because they wanna make sure that if their office burns down, they have one, in their car, and if their car gets into an accident and gets stolen, they have a copy on their desk,
so belts and
and they make sure
suspenders
it's in
is what you're saying.
Eh yeah, they make sure it's encrypted so that it's all good. I mean, listen, we get clients who other MSPs have not paid attention to security. The end client realizes, "Oh my gosh, how come I see these other computers? How come?" And it's all because the MSP was not properly caring and securing the environment,
Richard,
and
what's
so
an
they'll
MS?
come to
What's an
us.
MSP? Richard, what's an MSP for those not?
A managed service provider.
Okay, I just wanted to. Okay,
It's the term that IT companies use about people who provide IT service. And in that world, what's happened in the MSP space is it used to be filled with people who actually knew what they were doing. And through venture capitalists have been buying up these small
hmm,
MSPs
right.
and merging them, getting rid of all the technologists and replacing them with salespeople. And they'll rep one or two applications and they'll say, "Oh, Mr. Customer, you need this app or that app." Well, what does that app do? Oh, it will solve everything for you.
Those damn
And
salespeople.
not because there's no technologists anymore, right?
Yeah,
So
I
you
know. Yeah.
a business owner needs to ask his IT staff, IT department, or his IT provider, "Where's my data? How's it backed up?" And it's got to be real world answers. I want to see it. Like we do what's called air gap backups,
Hmm.
where the backup is not online. So even if the office becomes infected, it physically can't get to the backup. And that's purposeful. That's not accidental.
Now,
Security has got to be in the mind.
you're the president and founder of Protected Harbor, and you have a
Mhm.
whole host and different range of clients. Small, medium, large, let's say. So the typical client who's coming to
And very
you
large.
and sorry, I didn't mean to undersell anybody. So a whole
I
different.
just
No, listen, you got very large. You want to throw it in there. You should be proud, right? Nothing wrong with
yeah,
that. So
yeah.
let's just say a typical client of your firm again, Protected Harbor. Um, they're coming to you. Let's talk about. We've already started to talk about it, but the biggest reason is it cybersecurity? Is it data? Is it a mix? What are you seeing that are some of the
Yeah.
more nagging
Um, it's
challenges?
all it's all different.
Hmm.
type of clients that we appeal to are the
Hmm.
ones who are not getting answers that they need from their current provider. So we just got a software company that left Rackspace because they couldn't. They waited for what's called developer operations support, DevOps. They wanted some help in migrating
Hmm.
from one environment to another, and after 4 days, they couldn't get anything, and they just got frustrated, and this was over and over and over again. So they looked and they found us, and um, it's they put in a request, and within minutes, they're getting their answers. Um, we just got a client in Iowa, of all places, and their MSP had completely exposed their network, and they started to see devices on their network that weren't in their office. Just all of a sudden on your computer, you'd say, "Oh, here's a new camera. Here's a new server to connect to," but it wasn't theirs.
Wait, so this
So
is
that was
Richard. This is interesting. Does this go back to like with these service providers? Is the playing field different where there's less competence out there in the marketplace?
sure. Well, look what's happened in every industry, right? And I mean, we used to order servers from Dell before the pandemic, and it was 30 to 150 days tops. And
Hmm.
these are monster servers, okay? They're really
Yeah,
specialized. But this last server took 6.5 months.
really.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't wanna say the supply chain because that those issues are kinda resolved at this point. There's
Hmm.
a knowledge gap that has a knowledge drain, and I'm seeing it in multiple industries, not just 1 or 2, but I'm seeing it, of course, in the technology space, that the people who
Sure.
actually
Sure.
understand how things are wired and put together have kind of left or moved on.
Okay. So
So the
wait. That
people
now I'm just curious. Why has there been a brain drain in the industry?
Um, I you got me. I mean, why is there a brain drain in the general economy? Because people in their 50s and 60s decided to retire.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And that's where the skill set is, right? Because look at somebody's in their 50s or 60s. We started uh, predate the internet, predate microcomputers. So they're going to be the generation that understands how it all fits and where it came from. Everybody
Yeah.
who's now entering the workforce, well, all they know is Twitter, right? Or all they know is Instagram and
Right.
a mobile device. What do they know about a large computer? To them, a large computer is a bunch of cell phones put together. But that's not the case.
All right. So here's a crazy question.
Mhm.
Uh, is there any
My
such thing
favorite
as
type.
privacy? Is there any such thing as privacy anymore?
Well, there's the illusion of privacy. No, you can buy the on the dark web, you can buy any piece of information you want. My medical office, when I go to log in, when I arrive, I'm supposed to check in, and
Right.
that's where you scan your driver's license or pay your credit card. I won't do it. I won't do it because it's a third party that on the front screen when you sign in, it says you're authorizing that you can share this data. I'm like, no, I don't want to authorize that. So I literally walk up to the front counter and I say, I'm here. Oh, could you check in? Some places will hand me the iPad and I will X out that box and stop and hand it back to them and say, here. Other places, I just hand them my insurance card and my copay. And I say, here you go.
All right. All right. So
Um,
personal question now. Do you hand them the license? Because if they're
no,
scanning it, then it's okay. So you will
nope.
not give the license.
There's no reason for it. I'm paying the copay. I don't want to hear about it. No.
I like that. Interesting.
But you have to be conscious of it, right? Like there's every you go to a restaurant, right? The newest thing in a restaurant is give us your cell phone number. We'll call you when your reservation is ready. Well, you think that's the last time you're going to hear from that restaurant? Now you've gone into their database. You know?
Oh,
So what do I
Richard.
have to do? I have to have a spoof cell phone with me that that's what I'm gonna do? I mean, you know,
Well, you know
you
what it
just have to
is?
think.
Listen, you're saying all these examples that, human beings all day long, you go into a restaurant, you go into a doctor's office, you're checking in here, checking in there. And man, you have to be on your A game. And like you said, you're going to have a spoof cell phone or not check in. And people, we're sheep. We're just, oh, yeah, here's a license. Here's this, here's that. And,
Yeah.
that's it.
And
Privacy
every
is
time you
vanished.
do that, you're giving away your personal data. And that's if it doesn't get for the places you have to share with don't get compromised. I mean, there's one beautiful thing about the IRS. Um, they they have for years not had enough funding, so they're
Mm-hmm.
on mainframe computers that are completely disconnected from everything. So when you log into the IRS website, you're looking at a shadow copy. You have no way of going in the inputs. You have to manually key in. You know what? It's never been compromised. So
So that antiquated
there's
technology is actually safer.
that antiquated technology is safer. And what we do for our clients is we build in those concepts of isolation into modern infrastructure, into modern configurations, so that you have that level of safety. I'm really anal, and yeah, I do walk through life saying, "Hey, why you need that piece of information? Why do you need that?"
Yeah. Yep.
That's
Yep.
the way we all should be. We need to be data citizens, and that's what we do for our clients, is give them that bubble. That's why it's protected harbor. We give you that protected bubble around your operation so that the business owner can focus on their business.
All right, I love the analogy, and certainly the terminology of protected harbor is a great name. Um, so let me ask you this, and it's a big question, it's a tough question, but if you have a typical small business, it could be a law firm, it could be a
Mhm,
restaurant, you know the deal. Um,
mhm.
what would be uh, an idea, a key smart thing any business owner right now could grab and begin to improve their IT security? What would be a good
Turn on
habit?
2FA.
Okay.
Turn on 2FA. Do not share increase their Wi-Fi key. Don't
Mhm.
give it to clients. If you have people that come into the office, create a guest network that's
Okay.
completely isolated from the operations. Reset all of the passwords for every device that's in your office. People buy printers, they get a brand new printer walking in the door. What do? They turn it in, they turn it on, they plug it in.
Mhm.
Maybe they give it an IP address, maybe not. Guess what the password's going to be? Admin 1234. Admin password. Admin. Well, now if I want to attack something, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go up to the printer and I'm going to type in admin, and now I can do anything I want to that printer, including upload some bogus firmware. I can change the IP address and disable the printer. I could do pretty much anything I wanted to because I can just walk up and attack it.
So basically what you're saying, so let me make sure I understand this, Richard. So any guy like you who has, your
Right.
skill set, and again, I started today's show, you're a super geek. I mean, this is
Mhm.
your passion. So people like you with your skill set. Okay, we'll make that premise. So a person like you with your capabilities could walk into almost randomly pick any small business, go in and create absolute havoc and wreak a catastrophe of some sort. It sounds like.
Why do you think I have to go inside? I can do it from outside. I attach to their Wi-Fi. I'm in the network.
See, there's my ignorance on the topic. I thought you had to physically,
I could be out. I could be within 100 feet. You wouldn't even know I'm there.
Oh God! So you could be you could be lurking in the bushes, Richard. Jesus Christ, this is dangerous now.
That's why, right? But that's why it's important that everybody understands the data is important, how it gets leaked, why it gets leaked, who do
Yeah.
you hold accountable to understand your network? I mean, that's the seriousness of it. Now multiply that. I mean, my largest client is we run over 800 virtual servers for them. You know, it's petabytes of data that we are managing. Um,
Wow. So this is, I tell you, for a tech guy, you're pretty interesting. You know, it's
I appreciate that.
no, it's meant to be 100% a compliment. You know, you bring a very interesting,
I
you
love
know,
this stuff. So I got into the first time I knew that I could not. My mother was a doctor. She wanted me to be a doctor.
right.
The first time I knew I could not be a doctor is I took apart an alarm clock. Why? I just wanted to see how it worked. Now
Okay.
I wound up breaking it.
All right.
But I can remember disassembling it, and it was spread throughout um, my dining room table, all the pieces, and I wanted to understand how it all fit.
Right.
And I have not lost. I mean, I play every day, right?
So you have a real
I
curiosity.
I love what I do. I love
Yeah.
to understand how it
Yeah.
works. I
Yeah.
mean, AI, when I first got into it, I was like, wow, this is wild. And then I realized most of the people who are in it have no idea what they're talking about because they haven't stopped and looked at how the mathematical models work. And then the scary part to me, as in the field, is that the engineers don't understand it. They don't understand how it actually works. So right now they put a little governor around it, and that's what we're going to do. Well, you know, I remember getting into rental cars when it used to have governors, and then you used to just remove the screw from below the
Yeah.
accelerator, and you could make the car go as fast as you wanted to.
All
So
right. So listen, and again, today's guest, Richard Luna, he is the founder of Protected Harbor. It's been a great conversation, but I got an important question. And, you
shoot,
know, no kidding around now. You got to give me your best on this, okay? I want you to dig deep.
sure,
I need to
okay.
get your answer on the Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg cage match. Who do you predict wins?
I have to go with physics. So even though I'm not crazy about Elon, I got to give it to him. He's got 50 pounds on him.
So
So
you think
physics
strictly
is going to
mass
win.
is gonna physics will, but Zuckerberg is like doing the MMA thing. I've seen some stuff.
He's
Joe Rogan has been talking about some of his skills. I don't know,
and he's gone Brazilian. He's done the Brazilian fighting, and he's
jujitsu or whatever
really
it is.
ripped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's really ripped. But Musk is at least 50 pounds bigger and a foot and a half. So yeah, if he goes through with it. I think it's wonderful. It's all a PR stunt, and he'll do. They'll book it. They'll say they're going to do it, and then at the very last second, my prediction is at the very last second, there's going to be some technicality that's going to make it all go poof. But they
Oh,
would have accomplished all that free PR.
oh, right, exactly. Just up into
Right.
the final minute right there.
Right.
Well, yeah.
So
Listen,
my goal in life is to make enough money that I can have my own cage match.
so that's your bucket list. Let me be wealthy enough where people
That's
want to
on my
see me in a
bucket
cage
list.
match. Richard, this has been a great conversation, my friend. Very enjoyable. Again, Richard Luna, he's the founder of Protected Harbor. Thanks so much for being on board today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. I'm happy to help.
You got it. And this is the Profit Express. Remember to tune in each and every Wednesday so you can catch great content like with my show that I just had with Richard Luna, Protected Harbor. And my God, the conversations we talked about today with AI, data, cybersecurity, whoa. There's a lot to know and to be aware of for sure, especially if you want to continue to win the battle for business, which is what we do here on the Profit Express. So until next time, keep following me. Instagram, Twitter, you know the deal.